Okay, and just when you think there's nothing going on the recruiting trail, well, I got an interesting message in my Twitter inbox from a pretty reliable source on EPL that would suggest that this race is not over for Oklahoma. And listen, recruiting, I was telling Jay over at Unfair Sports this the other day. Oklahoma recruiting is like watching the Real Housewives of whatever city you want, right? That's what it's like. Constant drama, constant tables being overturned. But hey, you know what? We're here for it. So today, we're going to dive a little bit into the recruitment of Eddy, Pierre, Louie, talk about Grant Brix and where he will be this weekend. And then also talk about another prediction that I have for a 2025 recruit. But guys, before we dive into it, before we talk about it, I need to hear from y'all. So make sure you guys are grabbing your drinks, buckling up, getting some popcorn, and you guys are jumping in the comments below and joining the discussion. All right. And if you guys see this below, yes, I am watching the Chiefs game on the side. I got to watch Patrick Mahomes throw a couple touchdowns. If you're a Chiefs fan, jump down in the comments below and let me know. All right. Eddy, Pierre, Louie. This is where we're going to start. So I had an article sent by me by a UCF recruiting, we'll call him an insider or just person, whatever. And it was written by Ryan Wright with recruitingnewsguru.com. And he had an interview with Eddy, Pierre, Louie. And basically the question was asked, hey, two teams that may see Eddy, Pierre, Louie in the coming weeks. Oklahoma, obviously mentioned there, but there's a surprise team that's actually coming up in Eddy, Pierre, Louie. And this is one that I've kind of dove into a little bit with a couple other people in this recruitment, and that is going to be the Miami Hurricanes. And if you're Oklahoma, listen, this point doesn't shock you that Miami's trying to get into a recruitment of a player that you're trying to go out there and get, because they tried to do it with Devon Mitchell and David Stone. They failed both times. Hey, maybe the third time's the charm, right? Probably not. But he gave an update on the Hurricane staff and that relationship. And he says, we've always kept conversing. I've had great connection with that staff, the players. Their players are checking up on me, so I'm good. And taking a trip to Norman, it's kind of been a possibility. All options are open. At the end of the day, if you're an Oklahoma fan, though, you look at it and say, I'll believe Eddy, Pierre, Louie gets on campus when I see his butt in a chair against TCU. That's when I will believe it. Now, you look at it and you say, well, what about UCF? Well, UCF, as well as Oklahoma, has not gotten the visits that they were supposed to get. So you look at it and say, okay, so your biggest rival in this recruitment, they're probably not feeling too good about it. So this one feels like a toss-up, right? I think this one's probably going to be a 25% for all teams. You got Oregon in the mix here. And Oregon's one of those teams where, listen, they quietly sit in the background on players, especially towards the end of the season. You saw it last year leading up with Peyton Bowen, which just didn't end up going their way. And then you saw it with that 5-star offensive lineman back in 2022. I'm trying to think of his name, but I can't. But Oklahoma was going after that kid as well. Oregon's just one of those teams. They're going to sit in the background. And especially with NIL, they're going to go out there and they're going to win players. So Eddy, Pierre, Louie, if he ends up getting on campus, like we said a couple weeks ago, you probably win this recruitment. However, it wouldn't shock me to see him end up on campus and then decide to go to Miami or Oregon. Either one of those schools don't want to pay him. I mean, and no new news here. His mom wants him to stay at Florida. So Eddy, Pierre, Louie is probably fighting the hard battle right now, especially one that you guys even heard David Stone had to fight, right? You know, hey, parent wants you to go somewhere else and you want to go here. So what's that like? So, you know, at the end of the day, we'll have to keep an eye on it. We'll have to keep a track on the Eddy, Pierre, Louie sweepstakes. But right now, I think Oklahoma can come out victorious on this. They just got to get him on campus. They have to get him on campus. That's the important thing. Grant Brix going to be at Kansas State this weekend for his 8th visit total. So he'll be at Kansas State for the game up there. And then he's been to Nebraska 7 times, Oklahoma 5 times. And we should be having a decision pretty much right after the Kansas State game, probably like within a week after that. I think right now, all 3 recruiting websites, they're reporting different predictions for Grant Brix. So listen, you guys follow your favorite insider and you figure out where that one's going to land, and that's the one you're going to roll with. However, though, I'm still not wavering off of it. I think Grant Brix will ultimately end up being an Oklahoma Sooner. Williams Nwaneri, this is a name we haven't talked about in a while because, well, Missouri has just been on an absolute tear. And, what is there to really talk about? Well, I've talked to a couple people that are close to Nwaneri, in and around the area of Lee Summit North. And yeah, you know what? At this point, if I'm Oklahoma, I'm not betting my bet that Williams Nwaneri is part of this class. And of course, if you're looking at any other 5-star defensive lineman outside of Williams Nwaneri, you're looking at Dominick McKinley with Texas A&M, right? Especially with the recent let go of Jimbo Fisher. Can Oklahoma go out there and flip Dominick McKinley? Interesting thing here is with Dominick McKinley, Oklahoma was right on the edge of Texas in that recruitment before Texas A&M swooped in with the Gotham and Samora recruiting pitch saying that, hey, you know what? That's Texas. And yeah, at least that's what I've heard. So little interesting nugget for you guys there. I'm not sure if you guys have heard that or not, or if I've said that on here. Probably should not have said that, but I just did. So that's what we're going to roll with. Yeah, so the Gotham and Samora pitch, that's kind of why he ended up picking A&M over Texas and Oklahoma. But Oklahoma was the second to Texas A&M. And I would believe that if, Dominick McKinley ends up decommitting, which I know he put out on Twitter that he was committed to Elijah Robinson in Texas A&M. But at the end of the day, Elijah Robinson could likely end up somewhere else. And you could likely see Elijah Robinson probably taking a defensive coordinator position if it's open. So, and my Chiefs just got a pick. Let's go, baby. So let's keep an eye on that. Kind of see where the filler are. You would imagine that whoever gets that job at Texas A&M, whether it's Jeff Traylor or somebody like that, they're going to want them to retain Elijah Robinson because he's just an elite recruiter and he's pretty good at developing guys on the defensive line. So we'll keep an eye on that there. Dominick McKinley, Oklahoma, I would feel like would have a good shot at Dominick McKinley. However, I still feel like Texas leads in that situation if he decommits. But Oklahoma can make that push there. We know the soul mission was important with him and his mom. Now, getting into 2025, because I talked about it and I teased it at the beginning. There is a new prediction that kind of, I've been going back and forth. Should I put this one in? And I was debating on if this would be my first prediction that I would ever submit. And, I went back and forth on it, decided no. And then the other day, you know what I said? You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and pull the trigger. I'm going to be the first one to it. And that's going to be the 5-star offensive tackle, Michael Fasusi out of Lewisville, Texas. Yeah, you've heard it right. We've had him here on the podcast, talked to him many times. We've caught up with him after the OU Texas games, and I really like where OU sits in this battle. Now, it's going to be an Oklahoma-Texas battle down at the end of it. Oregon always is probably going to swoop in here and try to get Michael Fasusi as well. But we know that Bill Bedenbaugh and the staff, they're going to go out there and they're going to attack elite offensive linemen up and down across the board in 2025. And again, I really like the relationship that Bill Bedenbaugh has with this young man. And I really like where Oklahoma sits in his recruitment. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull the trigger and I'm going to say Michael Fasusi is going to be an Oklahoma Sooner by the end of the 2025 class. This dude is fast off the offensive line. He is explosive. And this is a guy that he's teammates with Jaden Hardy, right? So Jaden Hardy is really, I think, going to be a key piece in the recruitment of Michael Fasusi going into next year, where Michael Fasusi still has a whole nother senior season to raise his stock. He's currently the number 14th overall player in the 247 composite rankings. He does shot put and I believe I always say this wrong. I think it's discus. And Michael Fasusi been getting offers. He's got one from Miami, Georgia, Alabama, Florida. So Michael Fasusi's talents, especially him going to the Under Armour Next Feature 50 and all of these other camps. He's going to continue to rise. So, guys, I want to hear from you. I want to hear what y'all's thoughts are. Go ahead, jump down in the comments below, join the discussion. And if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like and hit that subscribe button.